Chapter 17. Shadows from Above. Elara sensed it before she saw it. A subtle distortion in the air, like the faint shimmer that danced above sun-warmed stone, except colder, sharper. The sensation brushed against her awareness as she walked through the village, carrying a basket of softly glowing leaves Eryndra had asked her to help sort. She paused. The tether warmed against her wrist. Kaelen, speaking quietly with a pair of villagers nearby, went still at the same moment. Their eyes met. "You feel it," he said. Elara nodded slowly. Light, but not natural. A faint unease crept through her chest. Not the gentle, ambient glow she was accustomed to shaping, but something directed, intentional, focused. Kaelen stepped closer. Where? She closed her eyes briefly, letting her senses extend outward. Threads of awareness reached into the surrounding landscape, brushing against currents she knew as intimately as her own heartbeat. "There," she said, pointing toward a distant ridge beyond the northern groves. "Something is moving through the upper currents." Kaelen's expression hardened slightly. "We will see." They traveled quietly, keeping to narrow paths between towering trees whose dark leaves whispered softly overhead. The air grew cooler as they approached the ridge, the ground sloping upward into rocky terrain broken by jagged outcrops. Elara's pulse quickened with each step. A memory stirred, the precise, disciplined patterns of movement she had seen among Ethelgard's skyward patrols. At the crest, she crouched behind a low stone formation and peered down. Her breath caught. Figures moved across the clearing below, cloaked in pale, reflective fabric that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. Each carried slender instruments etched with familiar runes. Sky Scouts. Her people. Kaelen knelt beside her, gaze sharp. "They are not of this land." "No," she said quietly. "They're from Ethelgard." A knot tightened in her chest, relief and dread tangled together. "They must be searching for you," Kaelen said. Elara watched as one scout knelt, placing a crystalline device against the ground. Soft light pulsed outward in expanding rings, scanning. "They're mapping," she whispered, "surveying energy flows." Kaelen's voice remained calm, but tension coiled beneath it. "For what purpose?" Elara hesitated. "Preparation," she said slowly, "or extraction." The words tasted bitter. Below, one of the scouts spoke, voice faint but clear in the still air. "Residual signatures confirm instability. Command will want immediate assessment." Another responded, "The anchor's influence is stronger than predicted." Elara's breath stilled. "They know," she murmured. Kaelen studied her. "Did you tell them of this place?" "No," she said quickly. He nodded once, accepting her answer without question. The trust in that simple gesture stirred something deep within her. "We should leave," Kaelen said quietly. "If they detect us." A sudden flash of light cut through the clearing. One of the scouts activated a detection lattice, a web of faint luminescence spreading outward across the terrain. Elara's heart raced. "They're scanning for anomalies." Kaelen glanced at the tether between them. "Then we must be cautious." Elara focused, drawing her light inward, dampening her natural radiance as much as possible. "Follow me," she whispered. They moved carefully along the ridge, staying within deeper shadows. The tether pulsed faintly, guiding their movements in quiet synchronization. Halfway down the slope, a voice rang out. "Who's there?" Elara froze. One of the scouts stood below, head tilted as though sensing something just beyond sight. The detection lattice flickered. Kaelen remained perfectly still. Elara's pulse thundered in her ears. After a tense moment, the scout shook her head and turned away. They continued downward until the forest swallowed them once more. Only then did Elara release a slow breath. "They're thorough," she said softly. Kaelen's gaze was thoughtful. "What will they do?" She looked back toward the ridge, unease settling heavily. "If they believe the anchor threatens the city," she said, "they'll try to neutralize it." "And what does that mean?" Elara swallowed. "Whatever is necessary." The implication hung unspoken. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, Kaelen asked gently, "Do you wish to reveal yourself to them?" Elara stopped. Her mind filled with images, familiar faces, the shining terraces of home, and the certainty she had carried all her life. Then she thought of the fading lands, of the villagers, of Kaelen standing alone at the fracture for a century. "I don't know," she admitted. The tether glowed softly, steady despite her turmoil. Kaelen stepped beside her. "You are not required to decide now." She looked at him, grateful. "Thank you," she said. As they returned toward the village, Elara felt a new tension threading through her thoughts. The worlds she straddled were drawing closer, no longer distant realms separated by belief, but forces converging toward an inevitable collision. Above, unseen but ever-present, Ethelgard continued its silent vigil. Below, in the deepening shadows, preparations had begun. And Elara knew with growing certainty the time of choosing was approaching faster than she had ever imagined.